This kid's fire.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother, what's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother, what's that? What's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother, what's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother,
Yes, guys, welcome back to another stream and another episode of L Bins. Hopefully, guys are all doing well, fresh off a win yesterday. Well, that is if you're a City fan, of course. If you're not a City fan, then maybe not. But yeah, City doing well. And hold that. 3 games to go. We're going to discuss yesterday. We're going to discuss the 4 games remaining of the season, obviously including the FA Cup final. Guys, make sure you drop a like on the stream if you've not done so already. It really helps grow the channel and get more people in the stream. Make sure you subscribe. And I've just added Nobbins' link in the title, guys, so you can go and subscribe to Nobbins. And after this, he'll be doing his post-mortem, so we'll redirect there. Let's have a look who we've got in the building, man. We've got Gabby, good to see you, man. Big up to Brand Holt, Pep Gvardiol Light. Big up to Herbal, Coldish Cat, Marshy Boy. Big up to Jack Rain. Citizens in the building. Big up to Tyree, Stefan de Brabender. Big up to you, bro. Big up to Connor. Good to see you, mate. Big up to Abayomi. MCFC City Till I Die. Barry's in the building. Big up to Rodrigo, Cecilia, Jess. Who else we got in here? We got Chris here. We got Nizat, Samuel, Jably. We got Roshan Ray, Brett, Simo, Sups. Hopefully, you guys are all doing well, man. Are you doing well, Brett? How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, I've been ill the past few days, but City's brilliant win yesterday restored me. Like Lazarus and all that. I have been restored to life thanks to that brilliant performance. And yeah, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. How about you?
I'm actually all right. Yeah, I was actually so nervous for yesterday, right? I don't know what you was like, but before the game, like I was convinced yesterday we was dropping points, bro. I was convinced of it. Yeah, not in a negative way, not in like a we're crap, we're gonna lose. Just in sort of like so it's just not so much just gonna go wrong or like we're just not gonna perform well. I was just convinced, like old Man City, like you know what I mean? Because obviously, there's a lot of people who watched City when we were crap. I'm not even talking when we're in the lower divisions. I'm talking like even under Stuart Pearce and all that kind of stuff. Like, and we know how bad we are. I was just like, typical City's gonna get us, but like that doesn't really happen no more. You know what I mean? And anyway, it was a top performance. I thought that first 15-20 minutes was excellent. Then after the goal, felt like we took our foot off the gas a little bit and let Wolves back in, and that was a bit frustrating. But obviously the lads saw that out and then got through. And as soon as we got the second goal, I think that was game over. Then you could see that Wolves were basically chalks. But yeah, in the end, a very comfortable win, wasn't it?
Very comfortable. Good for the goal difference, of course. I don't know if that's going to become a relevant factor, but it's still good for it nevertheless. Also good for the goals scored. I think we've only scored 1 less than Arsenal now, having played 1 fewer game, and that's relevant.
The goal difference ain't going to happen though, bro.
It's not. But the goal scored is relevant because if you score the most goals in the league, you tend to win the league. Scoring goals does matter. It's a good. Basically, I'm trying to say it's a good sign that we seem to have hit form post Arsenal game, as we discussed. That's like the third or fourth time now where we've scored like 3+ goals, whereas in the past, we've been struggling to score 3, 4, 5 goals at a time. I thought the football was really fun. I think that we've now just sort of resigned ourselves to, guys, we're basically going to concede a goal every single game in a way. But I tell you what, the opposition is probably not going to have as much firepower as us. And with that, I think what we're seeing is actually from a neutral's perspective, some really exciting, nice, fluid, quick football at times, a bit more direct maybe. And surprise, surprise, it's doing wonders for our more direct players like Foden and De Bruyne and Haaland, who all just happen to be some of our best players. So it's looking promising. If we can play like that through the remainder of the season, we should, emphasis on should, be fine.
But it's interesting you say that, because if you remember back to when we dropped points versus Arsenal, right? We said on that episode of El Bins after that, and a lot of people in the chat agreed with us, that given the fact that we had to win 9 out of 9 from that period, like draws were not good enough, we should lean into the attack and just basically go for it. And since we've done that, we've actually played some of our best football since the Arsenal game. Now, opposition fans will say, yeah, it's just because City click into gear. And that might be true. But I don't think that is the
it's
only
not a coincidence.
It's because we've gone into games and we know we have to win, and therefore we've been a little bit more attacking. We've been a little bit more aggressive in the way we play. A lot of fans, including myself, kind of just accepted that we might get hit on the break a couple of times because of, we've got to go for it. But because draws are dead to us, draws are basically losses. We draw one game, Arsenal win the next 2 games, we lost the league. So we've got to win matches. And I actually think that, I said this at the time, I actually think sometimes when you're in a position where only one thing is good enough, and that is winning, it can actually be a little bit better than having a loss in the bank and having a draw in the bank. Because when you've got a loss in the bank or a draw in the bank, sometimes you can be a little bit like, oh, should we keep going, or should we take the draw? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to win because you've got the draw. So, you know what I mean? And sometimes that can play dodgy stuff, play dodgy tricks in your mind. But look, we've been clash. Yes, I thought Erling Haaland against Forest. I know we didn't do an episode. I don't think we did an episode last week. He was great for that sort of 20 minutes he come on against Forest. Yesterday, again, he looks fit. He looks fresh. I think the best he's looked. I'm not even talking about the goals here, yeah? I'm not even talking about the goals. Since Forest, yeah, last week and this week, that's the best he's looked, the way he's moved since before his injury. Someone in the chat tell me that's wrong, because you can't tell me it's wrong, because it's right.
No, yeah, 100%, yeah. He picked up a knock against Real Madrid. He's also played a lot of minutes this season. It was so evident that there was something wrong in that respect. Again, literally being asking to come off the pitch because he was in pain or whatever. He was picking up that injury. He had then don't know how many games out, but it was at least 2, maybe even 3 games out where he just didn't play. He's come back, starting with that 20 minutes or so against Forest. I thought, changed the game for us in a way, but it just looked so much more threatening when he came on. And we saw yesterday, I think I totally agree. He just looks fresher. He looks sharper. The movement just looks smoother and more natural. That last goal in particular that he scored, he just looked so free. He was toying with his defender. Didn't look like static or straight at all. Again, looked really sharp. I think that the rest has done him good. I think the rest has done Rodri good as well. But he looks back to his best. Obviously, assists aside. Just thought that because it's been a week or so, hasn't it, since that Forest game? We had like lots of a quick turnaround, lots of games, and I know we obviously would have liked to be in the Champions League, but maybe that is that. And we'll try to look at the positives. There is that silver lining where had we been in the Champions League, had we had to have played an intense game on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, would these players have been afforded that rest? Well, definitely not. Rodri wouldn't have been given a rest. Haaland wouldn't have been given a rest. So, silver lining there. You'd like to think that they're now relatively refreshed going into the final 3 Premier League games of the season. Yeah, much needed. Clearly, the performances have paid dividends.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, This is. I just want to show you guys as well. This is such a terrible season. Erling Haaland has had a bad season. This guy, apparently, guys, I'm being told that Erling Haaland this year has not been good.
Yeah.
36 goals, 6 assists in 41 games. Just
Can I-
poor
may I-
nothings.
Yeah, may I say something on that? Yeah, because we've sat here and rightly, in my opinion, have said that for his standards, Haaland's having a subpar season relative to his incredibly high standards, and he's not finishing as well as he should be doing. Both of those things are true, but what certain fans do is they twist those words and they decide that what we're saying is he's been shit and he's been rubbish. No. In the same way that when we talk about City haven't been brilliant this season. We've been subpar for our high standards, but that's all in relative terms. Relative to other strikers in the like Haaland still maybe had the second best season in the league. You'd say maybe behind Watkins. So it's subpar relative to what we expect of Haaland because he's a world-class striker. But it's in isolation, in a vacuum, it's still better than the majority of forwards in the world. So people need to not get it twisted. Again, when we say things like Haaland's been subpar for his incredibly high standards, that is not me and LB saying he's been bad, he's been crap. That's these weirdos online who are saying this and saying, yeah, he's been crap, he's been terrible. But that's just because they're weird. Again, they need to actually look at the context and listen to what we're saying. We're not saying he's been bad. For him, it's an off-season. That doesn't mean it's an off-season for most strikers because Haaland isn't like most strikers. He's a generational world-class footballer. Yeah, I just need to point that out because that annoys me.
You know what as well people need to stop doing? People need to stop doing this thing of is build-up plays crap.
That is so bollocks, man. What are they watching?
Well, there's a couple of things, right? First of all, it's not as bad as people make out. And two, that's not Haaland's game. Haaland is an old school striker. Get him in the box, create him chances, he'll put the ball in the back of the net. He's very old school. And I think that's why I actually think he's a bit misunderstood. I think it's a bit misunderstood because if you think about all the strikers these days, yeah, everyone needs to be good on the ball. Everyone needs to be able to drop deep. That's the thing now, right? I guarantee, yeah, if I have a kid and take my kid to training, right, I guarantee the coach is like, oh, yeah, you need to drop deep, mate, and link the play. Because that's the way football's gone. That's the way that football's gone. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's just obviously football goes in different ways. And in 10 years, something else will happen, right? You could argue the same with the wingers. Wingers are not as direct as they used to be back in the day, right? So Erling Haaland, I think, is a previous generational player in a new generational game. And people are trying to say that he needs to do this and he needs to do that. And people are just completely oblivious to the fact that he's just a mint goal scorer. And, he doesn't, and people want him to do all this stuff. I don't want him to do all that. Do I want him to work on it and get better and better? Yeah, I think he should be doing that at everything, though. Everything. That's what elite strikers should be doing. That's what elite level footballers and athletes should be doing. They should be trying to refine the game and get better and better and better. But if he's scoring 50 goals a season, yeah, I ain't really going to be sitting here going, his build-up plays is poor. Because at the end of the day, if City really wanted a striker to be focused on build-up play, should have bought Harry Kane. That's what you should have done. Obviously, we tried to at the time. We didn't get him. And then we went for Haaland last summer. So, people, I just think, like, why are people weird, man? People are always looking to jump on the negatives of stuff. And I don't really understand it. It doesn't make no sense to me.
I think it's because there is a snobbery when it comes to world-class players. Is that Kate? Big up, Kate.
Yeah.
There is a snobbery. So people now, because it's like the modern game, whatever, and they expect every player to be able to do everything and anything if we label them world class, for example. So they'll look at a player like, Messi, Mbappe, whatever, and they'll go, right, they can do this and they can do that, and they can do that. So when they see a player who can't necessarily do it to the same level, but they have another attribute which is way ahead of anyone else, they go, well, it's not really balanced enough, it's not really good enough. I've seen loads of people say on Twitter, Haaland can never be considered the best player in the world because of X, Y, Z. I think that's shite, to be honest. Like, if he's so good in a couple of key factors which make him nearly perfect at his job and at his role, Why does it matter that he can't drop deep and hold up the ball like Harry Kane can? Why does it matter that he's not as a different outlet in the same way that Mbappe is in respect of his dribbling? It doesn't matter because specialist players like Haaland exist. These people would think that Muller, Jody Muller, was this tap-in shite striker when he was one of the best strikers in the world and was a Ballon d'Or winner. They would think that Miroslav Klose was an overrated plank because he can't dribble and because all he can do is score. Oh yeah, the thing that's the hardest thing to do in football. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I hold my hands up. Yeah, he can only do the hardest thing in the game to a world-class degree. So in the first instance, that annoys me. Again, it's something to do with a snobbery because again, they look. I think they have in their mind's eye what they want the best player to look like. And they want the best player to look like an Mbappe in terms of what he delivers on the pitch. The reality of the situation is this. Haaland was much better than Mbappe last season. So if Haaland, I know he's had an off-season, whatever, but if Haaland continues to be better than Mbappe in terms of like having an individual season, then yeah, he is going to be considered better than him and considered the best player in the world. And just because you don't like it, tough. You're going to have to suck it up, to be honest. So that's like the general point. But then secondly, his general play isn't bad, and his hold-up play isn't bad, and his link-up play isn't bad. It's actually quite good. It's actually some of the best in the Premier League from a striker. These people are acting like we're dealing with, I don't even know what, like Chris Wood or something, who's actually quite good.
Respect Chris Wood.
That's what I'm saying. That was a bad example. That's because he's actually got good hold up and link up play.
Yeah, and after what he did last week, you can never slag that man off again.
Yeah, I take that back. I take it back.
Naughty Dobbins.
But you get what I mean. Like it's just does need to improve. Does he need to improve in that respect? Absolutely. Not a perfect footballer. The guy's he's a child. He's 23 years old. Let's not be silly. He's not polished by any means. But yeah, it just annoys me. In the first instance, we're downplaying that specialism quality, which is unique. That we should be celebrating it. And then secondly, we're just downplaying his overall playing. And certain individuals have decided that he's got bad hold-up play, he's got bad link-up play. And these guys just don't watch City, clearly, because it's just not true. It's just not true.
Yeah. No. Listen, it's one of those things, man. It winds me up. Like, you actually mentioned it then in your little rant about people downplay goal scoring. Like, I've seen people say on, like, all he does is score goals.
Oh, boo-hoo!
Oh, what are you talking about, bro?
All City do is win games. Oh, boo-hoo!
It's honestly hilarious, man. It really is. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So he's currently 16 goals behind what he hit last year. But remember, this year he missed 7 games in the. So last year he played 53 games, a total of 4,131 minutes. And this year is currently on 41 games. So he's going to be 7, providing he plays the next 4 games, which I imagine he will. He's going to be 7 games behind, and he'll be around 400 minutes behind last year's total. So what's that, like 5.5 matches? Now he could easily get 6 goals in the next 4 games. So he's probably going to. I reckon he's probably going to win the season around 10 goals behind where he was last year. That's actually, when you deep it, pretty mad. Considering he missed 7 matches in the middle of the season, considering he's going to be about 400 minutes lower on game time this year than he was last year, and that he's basically been playing with an injury since he come back from in that December, January time. He's basically been playing with an injury. I actually think that, like, numbers-wise, it's almost more impressive this year. I'm not going to say it is more impressive because 52 last year's a madness, but it's almost more impressive this year that he's probably going to end up around 10 behind, about 42 goals, despite playing about 5.5 games less of total time and playing with an injury for 3 months. I actually look at that and go, I actually think he probably needs to get more respect than he did last year. I think that's an incredible achievement. I really do.
Yeah, and I've said it a fair few times on these shows. The finishing has gone down a level, but I think that's a blip. What has gone up a level is the general play, the hold-up play, the link-up. I'm still a firm believer of that. But I guess the scariest thing is that this is an off season. This is a subpar season for Haaland in the grand scheme of things, in terms of like scoring less goals than what would be expected of him in terms of like the underlying numbers. Does anyone really think that he's going to be doing the same again next season, when every season post Mulder he has overperformed in that respect? This is the only season where he has underperformed. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Next season, he's going to get, if history tells us, next season, he's going to be back to what we know he is. And City will have had 2 years of playing with him and therefore understanding him. I think we are seeing now that we are feeding more into how to actually play with him. So the team's going to be in a better situation to play with him. Haaland has improved, is improving, and isn't going to have this weird blip outlier in terms of the finishing. It would not surprise me if next season, again, we might not play the same amount of games as the treble winning season, but if we play a similar-ish number of games, it would not surprise me at all if we just see Haaland score even more goals than last season's record-breaking one. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Why not? He's improving. The team's improving around him. The team's getting more used to him. He's getting more experience. He's becoming better as an overall footballer. Why can't he score even more goals than last season? Why can't he get 60-ish goals? That sounds mad, but he's a mad striker. That can definitely happen. 100%.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know what? Before we wrap up on this Haaland topic, you know what's also kind of annoying? It's like, if you think back to 21-22, right? The year before we had no striker, of course, because we tried to get Kane, didn't get him, and we went into the season with the false 9. If you actually think back to that season, so the season before we signed Haaland, we basically was just crying out for someone to put the ball in the back of the net.
Oh yeah.
We didn't actually need a Kane. It would have been great if we got Kane. I think it would have been just as good as Haaland. You know what I mean? It would have been slightly. I think he would have scored less goals, but I think the way the team would have played would have been super good. But we didn't need Kane. We needed someone to put the ball in the back of the net. You remember that game that we played at Crystal Palace 0-0 in 21-22?
Yeah.
When Riyad Mahrez and Bernardo Silva basically just cooked, but just their finishing was awful. That game, that season, summed up what we needed. We needed someone to stand in the penalty area and just put the ball in the back of the net. And that's what Haaland does. And I just think, again, not to just repeat everything that we've just said, but the art of scoring goals is almost like people just look down on it. And you know what's also kind of weird is that in this day and age, when there's no good strikers on the market, you would have thought the respect for Haaland would have been at an all-time high. But it's almost as if people just play it down. And then you look at the market, you've got Isak at Newcastle, Haaland, and then Lautaro Martinez. Yeah, what Watkins, Tony, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. It really is. But listen, we'll move on from the Haaland topic. Big up to everyone in the chat getting your comments in. And if you are watching back on replay, make sure you get your comments in down below. Let's have a look at some of these super chats. Yeah, that's a weird one. Big up to Tyree, says Haaland looks happy again. It's another main thing. Yeah, maybe because he's not got pain or something. I don't know.
He looked hungry as well. He looked hungry. When he came off the bench and he was angry because he knew he could have had 5. He knew he could have put himself alongside Aguero in terms of scoring 5 goals in a game. He's happy. He's hungry. We'd love to see that.
Yeah, facts. LB says Haaland a world-class striker. Kane's a class CDM levels. You know what's funny is, right? You know when Bayern Munich lost a few games this season? You know a lot of Bayern Munich fans was getting onto Harry Kane saying, "Stop dropping deep, get yourself in the penalty area."
I was as well.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's like for England. I mean, get in the box. You're not Spurs anymore. You're with England. You've got Foden and Saka and Bellingham to create for you. Stop thinking you're Pirlo. It's not working.
Yeah, 100%. Craig in the chat says, as a Newcastle fan, said, "I'm loving everyone big up Isak. Means anyone try to buy him has to pay more." Bro,
I like Isak a lot, by the way.
I don't even know how much he'd be worth, man. It's got to be 130 minimum just to pick up the phone, I would imagine. You agree with that, Nobbins?
No, yeah. And also, I'm sure that Craig would know about it more than I, but their FFP situation, I think they have to sell one player realistically.
Bruno's gone.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's got the release clause, hasn't he? And he's probably more likely to leave. So they'll sell Bruno. So you'd imagine that Newcastle don't even have to sell Isak. So you tack another 20-30 million onto that price tag.
Exactly. Yeah, defo. And they're going to sign him up on a new contract because he's only on apparently he's on 90k a week, But because they didn't qualify for the Champions League, they've got to lower his wages because it's in the contract, which is weird because you want to be upping his wages. But apparently it's everyone's contract. So it's going to go down to around 70k a week. But then they're going to give him a new contract. He'll probably go on like 150 or something. I think I've said this to Pete, who's a Newcastle fan. I think Newcastle will sign him up on a new deal, and he will probably want a release clause in there of around 120 million. And if I was Newcastle, I'd say you can have a release clause if we're not in the Champions League.
That's a good idea.
If we don't qualify for the Champions League, you can have a release clause because we understand that you want to play Champions League football. But if we're in the Champions League, there's no release clause, and then he should probably accept that, and that's good for both parties. And it also encourages the board of Newcastle to invest because it's like, right, if we want to keep Isak, we need to get Champions League, so we need to buy some players. And people to Stumpy as well says, has everyone forgotten Zlatan Ibrahimovic? I don't remember. Yeah, exactly, mate. Bloody hell. Imagine him playing nowadays. It'd be wild, wouldn't it? People were getting onto him saying he's crap and all that kind of stuff as well. So there we go. Guys, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Nobbins. Link in the description. He's going live after this as well on his main channel. I want to take a look at the next couple of games, bro. We got Fulham away. Spurs away. Obviously, we've not scored a goal there in the Premier League era, but we did beat them in the FA Cup earlier this season. And then West Ham final day of the season, followed by United in the FA Cup. Fulham away, next game. One game at a time. I'm being told by a lot of people that this Fulham game is going to be super tricky. What's your opinion on it?
The Fulham one isn't one I ever had earmarked as a hard game in before. It's incredibly difficult and it's a torrid time. But just trying to be realistic and as I say, not like dismissing Fulham or anything because they're obviously a good side, and it is away. That's not the one that I earmarked as a potential hurdle. Like the Forest away was one of the biggest for me, given the relegation context and all that stuff. Fulham tend to be a naturally open side defensively. I thought they played well against Arsenal earlier in the season. They obviously beat them. But it's not, again, I got to respect them. It's not the one that I am scared of in terms of what is remaining and in terms of what we had remaining after the Arsenal game. That should be one where we win and win relatively comfortably. Should, again, emphasis on should. I personally don't. I think we'll win it by about 2 or 3 goals for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've pulled up the form of Fulham. So this is just generic form. I think it's Premier League only form. So they've not won a game in the last 3. Brentford away, drew. Crystal Palace at home, drew. Liverpool at home, loss. The last win came against West Ham away from home. But before that, again, they've only win against Spurs. So they've only won 2 games since the 3rd of the 9th of March. So they are struggling. Home form, if we take a look at this, is home form only. Again, no wins in the last 3, home form.
They're not playing for anything either, are they?
Nah, they didn't play for nothing, man. They're on the beaches, hopefully. They're 12th.
Yeah.
So, it's one of them. Like, I think it'll be exactly like Wolves yesterday. As soon as we get that, if we can get 2 goals ahead, heads will drop. They will come out and they will try and they will press us and they'll do good and that. And on the day, they're a very good team. If we can get that first goal, yeah, and then control it and go and get a second, that's exactly what happened to Wolves yesterday. At 0-0, we was cooking, but they weren't playing bad. We got the first goal, then they got back into it, Wolves, and actually started doing quite well. And I was like, what's going on? We're letting them back into the game. Then we got the second goal, and then the Wolves players, and you understand it, they just dropped off. Their energy levels dropped. Why? Because the game didn't matter for them. So their energy just dropped. And from there on in, I know they got a goal at 3-0, but we was in complete control. But these teams, when people say they're on the beaches, yeah, they don't just turn up on the pitch and be like, oh, we ain't trying today. They will try. It's when you take the lead. It's that effort that they need to put in to get back into the game, which will drop. So I think it could be one of those. Like, if we just have a good start like we did yesterday, we should be fine. But you start poorly, or Fulham get the first goal, and it could turn into a difficult afternoon. And of course, remember, it's early kickoff as well, 12:30 kickoff. Now, I'm not really asked about the 12:30 thing. I know a lot of people don't like it. I would prefer to play 12:30 because I want to get it in and get it done and then get the win, hopefully. Yeah, and then we can sit back and wait for the Arsenal game the day after against United. But this is another test that we have to overcome, and you know, it'll be interesting to see if we've got the energy again, because like you mentioned before with Rodri, he looked fresh. Haaland looked fresh. Kevin De Bruyne looked fresh. Even Bernardo Silva, we didn't have a mad game yesterday, but he looked fresher than he has done. So we got another week off. Hopefully we can go there and put in a performance.
Yeah, I think that of the games we have left, this is the most straightforward one. It's the closest you can get to a box ticking exercise as possible, given the context of the games we have left. Obviously, Spurs away is a thing, and then the last day of the season is the last day of the season, where if Arsenal win all their games and we win all ours, then the title will be decided. So that's never an easy game, no matter who you play. If you're at home, if you're away, this is again, yeah, this is the most straightforward one. I don't anticipate us losing points. I don't think any Arsenal fan is going to realistically look at that game and go, "Yeah, I'm marking that one as a game where they lose points." I just don't see it. I see us playing how we did yesterday. I think we're going to score a good number of goals, maybe not as many, but I think 3. I think I can maybe see like a 3-1 result being pretty realistic. And another week off, as you say, that's big. That is big. And then I'll focus on Spurs. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. I think.
Yeah, I'm Fulham are a good team, man. On their day, they can be very dangerous.
Yeah, of course. Like they're not shit. Obviously, they are good. They are solid, safe in mid-table. Like there's no doubt about that. They have some very good players. I don't know if Adama Traore is going to be playing and, you know, trying to run it back to 2020 or whenever it was when he absolutely destroyed our whole defense. But again, it's a game where I look at it and I'm like, yeah, you know, obviously Premier League opposition, level of respect, level of quality. But outside of big injuries, outside of weird clangers of a performance, I just can't really see how we don't win that game.
Yeah, well, hopefully we do get the win. But yeah, again, Fulham, it's going to be interesting. After that, Spurs, which I guess we'll speak about closer to the time. But that'll be an interesting one there. They seem like they're just in free fall at the moment, to be honest with you. And then West Ham on the last day of the season. And apparently, I just seen someone in the chat say, Antonio saying that if it goes down to the last day of the season, West Ham will get a result. So,
yeah, but you know, he also say that he'd score 1 million goals for City or something?
He said he'd score a lot of goals.
Yeah,
for City.
so.
And then the game after he missed a 1v1. Like,
Yeah.
pretty funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
Great. I did want to speak about Josko Gvardiol as well, mate, because Gvardiol for me is a player who has apparently flopped this season. And I keep saying, I'm so glad I was on the right side of history with this one, bro.
Yeah.
Because we've defended him all season, and he just is a top player. And it's kind of weird how he's only starting to get flowers now, where I don't really think he's doing much different than what he was doing earlier in the season.
It's because he had some games where he scored some goals. So the people who don't know any better have now decided that he's playing well, and now they're actually paying attention. You and I are the bouncers to the Gvardiol hive. Yes, we are the bouncers to the Gvardiol nightclub. You don't get to come in now. This is invite only. Yeah, you had the opportunity to come in. It's first come, first serve. You had the opportunity to come in at the start of the season when we all told you he was going to be brilliant. We all told you that we signed one of the best young defenders in the world. We've been telling you for weeks and months actually, and people still don't want to believe us. And now we score some weak foot goals, and people want it. It's like, I want to know. No, you don't get to join the party. We're all having fun in here. You guys can't come in. Whoever was on the wrong side of history. You're gonna have to hold that, I'm afraid. Invite only. We are at full capacity. Full capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. It's invite only, guys. I'm afraid. Nah, he's honestly mega, man, and the way like he just like skips around players, like is you know what's impressed me is that like his 1v1 defending out wide, it rivals Ake. Now I'm not saying it's better than Ake. Maybe some people say it's better than Ake. Some people might say no, it's not. But like, it's not far away. And like you know, early in the season, remember? I don't know if you remember this conversation we had earlier in the season. I remember saying, play Gvardiol left back in the league. As soon as you get to like Champions League, knockout rounds, play Ake. I wasn't saying that when we got to the knockout rounds. I was happy for Gvardiol to play left back against Real Madrid and against other teams. Why? Because he's proved to me that he can do it. You know what I mean? I just think he's absolutely mega. And I think, 70 million, whatever it was a great price, great bit of business from Tiki to get him for that price because for a year, Leipzig was saying they ain't selling him for anything less than 80 million because they wanted him to be the most expensive player most expensive defender in world football. And to get him for the price we did, hopefully we've got him for the next 10 years. It's just, honestly, I just love the player. And I keep saying, and this isn't a dig, but this is what Pep wanted Laporte to be. He wanted Laporte to be able to play in the wide areas. Laporte couldn't play wide. He couldn't. He was too slow. He wasn't agile enough, and he wasn't a good enough 1v1 defender. He was great. I'm not slagging him off. I'm just saying, like, on the ball, he clearly was mint. Playing in a back four, standard back four, he was clearly fine. But when soon as the winger or the wing back, pushed up the pitch and he was exposed out wide, he just couldn't. He just wasn't good enough. And that's what the Gvardiol is. And it's just a massive upgrade, man. It's just a massive upgrade. And again, I'm not saying that's a dig to Laporte because I love Laporte, but it's just mint.
No, it's just true. Laporte was one of my favourite defenders at City, but the reality was in this new system where we needed that player to be comfortable defending those wide areas in particular. Laporte doesn't and didn't like defending wide areas. He was much happier in a flat back four. That wasn't really his game. So in terms of a system perspective, it was 100% an upgrade, as is being seen on the pitch. And yeah, he just seems to go from strength to strength. You don't think he can do something, and then next week he just ends up doing it like that, like adding weak foot goals to his game. I had no idea he had that in his locker. Apparently, he's got a lethal rocket on him. So just when I don't think I could love him even more. Like in my Gvardiol analysis video, which I did at the start of the season, I said that Haaland's defining our attack, and like Gvardiol will possibly be defining our defense for like the next decade or whatever. And then there's a very, 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 very real possibility of that. It may be that we don't even need to look for a left back in the summer. We might look for a right back instead, especially if Walker's leaving.
Well, I'd love to get Miguel Gutierrez. Yeah, I'd love to get Miguel Gutierrez from Girona. I'd love to get him. But I don't actually think we need a left back because you got Gvardiol, you got Nathan Ake, and Akanji can play there as well. So you got three players that can play left back, right? I actually think right back is more important. And we need to decide what we're doing there. Now, there are talks that Kyle Walker is chatting to some clubs in Saudi Arabia. And maybe Bayern Munich will come in from again. I think Walker leaves in the summer.
I think so too.
From some of the rumours that I've seen online, a couple of messages that some people have sent, I think Walker leaves this summer. Then it's a case of who do we get? Because that we do need another player there. You know what I mean? Because Akanji, whilst Akanji can play right back, and of course you've got Rico Lewis who can play there as well, and Stones can kind of play there if you wanted him to, but I'm not a massive fan of him playing right back. I know some people are, but I don't really like it. I still think you need another player. Now, of course, you've got Jan Couto, who's a City player, and you don't have to pay anything. You could get Frimpong, who would cost 35 million. And of course, if you get Frimpong, that means you're selling Jan Couto. You're probably selling Jan Couto for 20 million. So net spend there, it's only going to cost you around 15 million quid for Jeremy Frimpong as well, which is a decent bit of business. And actually, you're probably going to get 10, 15 million for Kyle Walker anyway. Probably about 10, 12, I reckon, because of his age. So that you could end up getting Jeremy Frimpong essentially net spend free, which is pretty decent. So yeah, I agree. I don't actually, because of how good Gvardiol's been and how good Ake is, and the Akanji can still play there as well. I don't think we will sign a left back. I think we'll sign a right back. The question is, who?
Yeah. I think that's correct. I did want a left back. I wanted an overlapping offensive left back. I actually think that maybe, especially with like the rumors Walker's leaving, my tune may have changed. We might need a right back now. I don't know. I actually don't know who. People say Frimpong. I say he's not a right back. He's a right winger, right wing back. If you look at where he plays for Leverkusen, when Leverkusen don't have the ball, this guy is not playing as a defender.
Bro,
he's not.
Last weekend, I did a watch along, right, of the game that there was 2-0 down in, and then they scored in the 97th minute. And Frimpong, I swear to God, was playing striker.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I'm not capping, he was playing. He was almost the furthest player up the pitch. He was not playing as a right back. That's the only thing. He's just not. He wasn't playing as a right back, and I guess that'll be interesting. But it's either him Jan Kuto or someone else who we've not even thought? Or do we or does Akanji just go to right back and say, right, Akanji, you are now our right back, and then do we sign another centre back? Wait.
For me,
You could do that, couldn't you?
We could, yeah. I just want an attack. I want at least one attacking fullback because that gives us so much range in terms of like how we can set up the team differently for different. Exactly, and for different opponents. I think the ideal player would be Kyle Walker from like 7 years ago. Obviously, that player doesn't exist because we don't have a time machine.
James.
He
is. I would say he's probably the
Reece
most
James
similar.
or Gusto. I would love either. Reece James, you're never going to get because he's Chelsea academy, blah, 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 and unlike Mount, I don't think they ever want to get rid of him. Also, I think he's quite injury prone, isn't he?
Quite.
I don't think I'm being kind there. I don't think they'll ever get rid of Gusto, like because he's young and he's clearly brilliant. I think Gusto could be perfect, but I don't think we're going to get him. But that is a sort of player we need, not a Frimpong. Not, I know he's on the left, but not a DeMarco. We need a Reece James sort of player who's fit, a Gusto sort of player, who that's the vibe that we're after, rather than a winger like Frimpong.
Yeah, why would Chelsea say? He says naturally. Well, they've got the FFP situation. Do they need to sell? If we spend,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think they would sell. So that's why I preface it by saying this. It's a pipe dream. It won't happen. But if it could happen, it would be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did play for Wigan back in 2019, so he has some history of living up north for it.
Wait, Gusto?
No, Reece James.
Oh right, I was going to say like what? It would have been a bizarre crossover.
No, Reece James's injury record is quite horrendous. If we're being honest, it's shambolic. And I said this before. They need to get a specialist in and see what's going on there because his career is just going down the Swanee, mate. Which is a bit of a shame. Let's see what other people say. Big up to William, by the way. Says we paid off the refs according to rival fans.
Yeah. But do we also pay the refs to give those weird decisions in the Arsenal-Bournemouth game as well?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like the level of officiating this season has been bad, but that's where it ends. It's been bad. There is no conspiracy in favor of any team. There's no official that's purposefully making mistakes to favor City. There are no officials purposely making mistakes to favor Arsenal or Liverpool, etc. It's incompetence. There is no conspiracy. The earth is round. The moon landing did happen. And there is no conspiracy. Okay, are you taking the fucking piss?
Is it round? Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, listen, it'll be interesting to see what goes on this summer. I think this summer, man, I keep on flip-flopping on what's going to happen. Because I don't think we're getting Bruno, mate. All the talk is that Arsenal are getting Bruno, which is kind of crazy, you know what I mean? Because apparently we're the ones who always spend, and they're going to buy £200 million players. That's the rumours that I'm seeing, that maybe Arsenal are looking into Bruno. Whether or not he goes, obviously it depends whether he wants to leave. Kimmich, for me, is the one that I think is still... Craig's not having it. Craig's like, no one's getting Bruno.
Give me him. Give me Bruno now. Do it now. Let me have him.
But for me, Kimmich is the one that's just like, it's just low risk, man. It's just low risk. You know what you're getting. He's worked with Pep before. He can play right back. He can play in the middle. And I'm just looking at Kimmich and thinking, he's cheaper than João Neves. He's cheaper than Bruno. He's probably going to cost around 55 mil. And he's probably not going to need too much time. Bit like Kovacic. He's probably just going to be able to come into the team and after a couple of weeks be like, right, I get it again now. I remember the Pep systems and the Pep way of training. So I don't know, man. Obviously, apparently Tiki loves João Neves. This is a thing. He loves João Neves. But do you see him spend 100 million quid on João Neves?
I don't know.
He's 19. He's played 75 professional matches in his whole career.
He is a child. He is a babe, isn't he? It would be a risk. Of course it would. The trajectory is probably what they would be looking at. They would be hopeful that under Pep's stewardship, they could turn him into what they think he could be. Of course, it's a risk. That's why, again, my preferred option would be Bruno if we can bring in any player of that ilk. But my second preferred option would be João Neves. I would trust that decision to be the correct one. It would be very exciting. It would be the most exciting option, that's for sure, because it would be the most risky. I don't know. Maybe they'll look at it as, right, we need to properly replace Gundogan, and in doing so, we're going to replace him for a decade. That would be the thought process in terms of spending £100 million on a teenager, wouldn't it? It would be like, right, we're spending this money, sure, but look at it as he'll be here for 10 years. I know this isn't how it works, but it maybe in their heads they can rationalize it as 10 million a year. Again, I know that's not how transfer fees work, but maybe that's how they can rationalize it. And we've got potentially one of the best central midfielders in the world for the next decade plus. Maybe that's the thinking. That's the justification. Yeah, it's a risk. Of course it is. But I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where we go with that, because we definitely need someone. Bloody hell. I mean, the proof is in the pudding again. Rodri yesterday. He was the last one to... Well, did he even get subbed off yesterday, Rodri?
I don't think he did he?
No, exactly.
I don't think he did.
No, I don't think he didn't get subbed off. So it's like, again, I mean, we need someone to be able to play there. Bruno over Kimmich any day for me. Can't lie, bro. Yeah, fair, man. I think actually the whole CDM debate is very split. Very split. In fact, I might do a quick poll before we end. Who would you rather have?
Who
would you rather have?
For me, I like Kimmich. I think there's maybe too many similarities in terms of what his defensive strengths are compared to Rodri. I think that maybe there needs to be more of a contrast. Again, that's why I really like the idea of Bruno, because I think that he can more easily cover for Rodri's few weaknesses. That's why I like him. Bless you. That would be my preferred option. If we get Kimmich, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's the worst signing ever. But I would be a little bit, if it in a world where it came down to you can pick one or the other, I would be a little bit disappointed. But I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer here.
No, I don't think there's a wrong answer. It depends on what you want. Do you want low risk? Yeah, pretty decent return. Kimmich. You want maybe slightly more risk, but the return potentially could be better. I go Bruno. I'd say Bruno's slightly more risky than Kimmich, just because he's never worked under Pep Guardiola before. I think that's a fair statement. But he's probably got... He's younger than him, so the reward there is greater. And, I think that he could be very special. Or you go João Neves and be like, probably you've got to put into the high-risk category. Yeah? The high-risk category. But the returns on João Neves could be life-changing.
Yeah, it's definitely the riskiest one.
The film... what's it called, the film? Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy, before he gets the main job, the guy
penny stocks.
The little penny stocks. And he rings up the guy and is like, right, I want you to buy this satellite company. It's like, he's talking about, it's going to take over the world. And then they show a picture of it and it's just some guy's shed.
Sure.
Yeah. That's João Neves. Yeah. He's not the Real Deal yet. He's not the main driller. Yeah. But who knows? Maybe those satellites are legit. Maybe the satellites will take over the world. And then he bought in on the penny stocks. He's going to be a millionaire. That's João Neves, mate. You could realize...
You'll never get insight and analysis like this anywhere else. We've just used penny stocks from Wolf of Wall Street to compare a footballer. You won't get that anywhere else.
This is what the people want, man.
It's supply and demand, my man. Supply and demand.
This isn't that. What's the Athletic? Is it Tifo? What's it called? The Athletic YouTube channel.
Football.
Yeah, Tifo Football, where they give proper insight and analysis. I mean, if you want that, go to your channel. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, yeah.
Your channel Yeah. Well, actually, we're going to wrap up the stream now because Nobbins is going to go live on his channel, and I'm expecting some good insight here, bro. I don't want you talking about sheds or satellites.
Damn, that was my whole opening gambit.
I want you on FB Ref. I want you on FB Ref talking to us about XG.
I do spend far too much time on that website, to be fair. But no, yeah, we can do that for sure. Why not?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Right, guys, we're going to wrap it up, man. Big up for joining. Hopefully you enjoyed it. No watch alongs today, man. I'm having a day off. We've got a rare nice day in Manchester today. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go out. I'm going to go to the pub and sit in the beer garden and just absorb the vitamin D, have a few drinks and chill out. Yeah. So I'm going to chill. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully we will be there. But obviously Nobbins is going live now with some actual proper conversation for yesterday. And I'm sure speaking about the future games as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash a like. Make sure you subscribe if you're watching back on replay. Give us your comments in down below. And yeah, you'll be redirected now. So go over to Nobbins' stream and enjoy. See you later.